When you are representing a family, you usually put here a male and a female, and then if they're crossed, they're going to have children come this way, and you just put the symbols. The first child to be born will come to the left side, and then subsequently you just add on to the right side. Now, when you have a case of adoption, you also put this child in this certain family. It's going to be part of that environment, but you also put a line connecting to the biological parents, and then is a dashed line from the adopted parents. When you have twins, you just put these lines together. These here are identical twins with a little dash in the middle. Okay, A, they didn't know how to spell identical twins. Okay, so remember, little A over there means identical twins. Non-identical twins is just a little open, upside down V. And if you don't know the nature of the twins, you just put a question mark, but they're still twins. Okay. So when you have cases of people that had marriages within the family, like first degree cousin, you have to somehow represent that they were closely related. So you have to represent here with a double sign. Instead of one line, in case of these two people getting married, you have two lines. That represents consanguinity, which means coming down from the same bloodline. Like, in the case of those queens, Queen Victoria, and all these, hierarchical families that really wanted to keep the money in the family, they also kept all of those recessive diseases, and they kept on showing up. Hemophilia, it happens more often in cases of consanguinity. This is where it starts to get interesting. You have to figure out, if you have a pedigree, what is the genetic trait, what is characteristics that are showing in a particular form of genetic inheritance. So you can have one of 5 inherited traits. First one, it can be autosomal recessive trait. Now what that means, remember, autosomal, anything but sex. If it is recessive, it means you need 2 of the recessive genes to express that particular characteristic. Now, if you have an autosomal dominant trait, you're only going to need one of them to express the characteristic of autosomal dominant. The other one is not going to matter because it's dominant, so the other one, it could be dominant as well, or it could be a recessive allele. It doesn't matter. Autosomal dominant, only one of them present is going to show the trait. Now, you can have X-linked recessive traits, which means that is on the sex chromosome, is X-linked. Now, this trait here is going to show up only when you have the recessive traits there. So you can imagine X-linked recessive traits show up more in men than in women, because men only have one chance of getting an X chromosome. So if he gets the allele that is the recessive, is going to show a particular trait for whatever you're looking at. And then you can also have X-linked dominant, right? So in this case, you also have a case of a dominance, but then in order to express those characteristics, you're going to have the dominant form on your X chromosome. So these 3 here is X-linked. And then you can have also Y-linked traits, and you can imagine where those traits will show up, right? Only in what? Only in men. If you have X-linked, it has to be on a sex-linked chromosome. For the autosomal recessive. Now make sure when you are trying to solve pedigree problems, before you look at the problem, write down what the possibilities are, okay? 5 of them. Just before you even look at the pedigree, just write it down. Autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive, X-linked dominant, Y-linked. Then you look at the problem and you say, what is this? There is a practical way of solving this, but first we are going to look at the general ways of solving a pedigree problem. In case of autosomal recessive traits, appear equally in males and females, and also it tends to skip generations. Okay, so these are autosomal recessive. Now why? Well, let's say if it is autosomal, let's say it's A, okay, and this person is a heterozygous for that particular autosomal recessive trait, and it marries somebody who is autosomal heterozygous. So what happened here? After they have a child, now you have somebody who is showing the disease. If you have somebody who is autosomal recessive, this gene is going to only show up if it is recessive. So now here, let's see. This person could be AA, or it could be A, big A, little a. Now, could this person be little a, little a? No, it's not showing the trait, so this is out of the question. Now, let's say this person here is marrying somebody who we have no idea what genetic composition is. And okay, let's say instead of coming to the complicated side, these people here have a child that is expressing the gene. Okay? So you know for the autosomal recessive that you can have this person here to be a heterozygous. It's not showing the autosomal recessive trait, but you know it is a carrier because when you have both of the recessive genes combining, you're going to have expression. Now look, parents did not express, grandparents did not express, so where is the gene coming from, right? So you don't see it in every generation. Sometimes you skip 2 generations or 3 generations, sometimes you'll just never show up and the person can be carrier, right, as a heterozygous, until finally you hit somebody who is also a carrier and then, you know, the trait shows up. So this is the main idea for autosomal recessive. We appear equally. Autosomal doesn't have to do with the sex, so men and women can get it, and tends to skip generation. So if you look at the pedigree, see a generation is not there, not expressing, you can guess it's some form of recessive trait. Okay. And also another thing that is important here is that it tends to show up on parents they are related. Look at this, first cousins, consanguinity, right? Had a child with that genetic trait.